So, welcome back to the channel. If you're like me, you're really big on planning your reading, using TBRs and keeping track of your reads. Maybe you give stars or ratings to your books. I certainly do. I like to kind of form my thoughts after I've read every book, write them down, and then I kind of refer back to them later down the line. And one thing that was really on my mind was, what does my reading look like compared to, say, everyone else's reading? Aggregator sites are really good for this. Obviously, there's a lot of people have issues with Goodreads, but Goodreads does track the ratings you give books and the rating everyone else gives books. And with some of those books receiving like 1 million ratings each, you get a really good idea of how people feel about it. Now, there are some issues with this. Obviously, aggregator sites tend to remove the extremes. When you aggregate in that kind of huge, on those huge numbers, obviously you're going to remove, there's not going to be a lot of books out there with 1 or 2 stars on average, not when you're receiving thousands or at least hundreds of ratings. And there's not going to be a lot that manage to get a 5. Obviously, it's probably likely impossible. But you're going to have a lot of scores ranging from about 3 to about 4.5. And I went through all the books and the ratings I gave the books last year in 2023 and decided to compare that to what I'm going to read in 2024 and try to take a guess, an educated guess, at how good a reading year I'm going to have. Strange idea, I know, but it was on my mind one night. I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd have a little look. So last year I read 58 books. It might have been a little bit more, but this is what Goodreads has. And I gave an average of 3.89 stars out of 5. So I thought that was a really good reading year. I think I put it on my end of year video as a 3.9 average, which is pretty much what it was. Goodreads gave those books, so the readers as a whole on Goodreads gave those books I read a 4.08. So by that metric, I basically scored books roughly 5% lower than the reading public. So does that make me a harsh critic? I mean, it's only 5%, but when you look at it in stars ratings, the difference between a 3.9 and 4.1, is it a big difference? It isn't a big difference, but because it's aggregated over maybe 100,000 ratings or 1 million ratings, it is substantial, or is statistically significant. For my 2024 TBR so far, I've added 39 books I want to get to. I hope to get a few extras on there as well, obviously, but 39 books are currently sitting on my TBR. And if I was to look at what Goodreads or the reading public has given these books, that score currently stands at 3.91. Now, as you can tell, that is quite a little drop, really, over, or at least a 5% drop over the books I had on my TBR for last year. So, by that metric, am I expecting a worse reading year in 2024 versus 2023? And the short answer, I suppose, to that is no. And this is a couple of reasons for this. Firstly, my reading this year, I feel, is much more controlled. It's much more led by my feelings and my kind of responsibility towards the series that I'm reading. And if I wasn't enjoying a lot of these books and series, I probably wouldn't have kept going with them. So I feel like I have a certain amount of knowledge in advance. I know I'm going to enjoy it to an extent, these books, or at least the author's prose and their writing style, their narrative structures. So I feel fairly confident a lot of these books will be 3 and 4 star reads. Not every book's going to hit for me. Not every book in a series hits for me either. But I feel confident that I won't be out there DNFing these books or giving them 1 or 2 stars, because I've read thousands of pages by most of these authors and I have a fair idea how good they are as writers and what to expect. So at the moment, I estimate an average of a 3.71 for 2024. That is based on me scoring 5% lower than the reading public or the Goodreads averages. So 3.71. Now, if you saw 3.71 on a book on Goodreads, you might think that is mixed reviews, or maybe it's not really hitting for everyone, that it isn't necessarily a great book. 3.7 for me, I don't know about you guys, that's a great book. I kind of think 3 to 3.5 stars is a good book. Anything over 3.5 stars, for me personally, that's a great book. So I'm not too worried if my average does come out about 3.7. I still think I've had a good reading year. Maybe it wasn't as good as last year, But I wouldn't be surprised to see that that score up around the kind of 3.8 to 4. I've got a lot of confidence in the books I've chosen on the TBR this year. I hope that you have really picked some gems for yourself in 2024, and you're also feeling very optimistic. 2023 versus 2024, the fight is on. I'm only about 5 books into the year, but look, I'm very optimistic.